Do we need to prepare for weird things happening? Yeah. In today's day and age, we absolutely need to. We're going to talk about how to prepare for things that you can't even conceive of. There's a term out there called black swan events. These are events that you didn't even see coming. It's not like, oh, well, that's a possibility that could happen. It's more of something that's just like, what in the world just happened? I didn't even realize that could happen. You're not prepared for it because you didn't conceive it, you didn't imagine it. We're going to talk about how we can actually prepare for these type of things because it takes an alternate type of thinking. I know a bunch of you have listened to this channel for a while. You've gotten some extra food. You've put away some extra things. You've maybe listened to me about water and have, put away a little bit of water in case your water goes out. Maybe you've taken steps to be a little more prepared. But I'm going to challenge your thinking a little bit here because preparing for weird things well, here's the thing. Weird things do happen. Contingency things do happen. Black swans are a regular occurrence. Maybe not every week, maybe not every year, but black swan events happen. Weird, unknown things happen, and when they happen the first time, that's the first time everyone's seen it happen, and everyone says, who could have known that? I'm going to talk to you about how you can be prepared for these things. And like I said, it's more of a mental shift and it's a planning shift. We need to challenge our complacent thinking. So normally you ask yourself, well, here's my good life that I have right now, or my tolerable life right now, and what could go wrong? Well, the power could go out. Well, if the power goes out, well, then how will I handle that? And then you may ask yourself, well, what will that impact, right? And the challenge with this type of thinking is we can maybe not have enough imagination. A lot of people don't think about the fact that if the power's out for too long, well, then the cell phone towers are going to die. I mean, they won't die immediately, generally speaking, but if the power outage is broad enough, the cell phone towers might go down immediately. Did you know that? Because if the cell phone towers themselves may have power, so you may still get signal, but you won't be able to connect to anything. Because they actually have wires going from those towers to central hubs where are tapped into the internet and the main fiber optic cables across the United States and everything like that. But if the hub itself runs out of power, if they don't have power at that hub, you could lose connectivity to the internet and to a cell phone network immediately. And a lot of people don't think about that, but that has happened on occasion. So if the wrong node of the network loses power, you could, in a broad swath of people, could be out of internet almost immediately. But also something that people don't think about with power outages is you could be out of water relatively fast. If your water company loses power for their pumping stations, there's only so much water in those pipes. And if you're at a certain place in the water system, you might be one of the first people to lose water. So when you lose power, that's why it's always important to pull out your phone and make sure you got internet, right? First thing. And second thing is look up the power company. Look up the news. Why did you lose power? Do they have crews working on it? Check poweroutage.us, I think it is, to see how widespread power outages is. If your state has like a bazillion people out of power, it may take a while for you to get power back on. You need to be more prepared. If it's like, 50,000 people and your power company is saying, we'll have your power back on by midnight or something like that, or by tomorrow, then you don't have to worry about your freezer and your refrigerator quite so much, maybe. But if they don't have any plan on when they're going to fix your power and there's just widespread outages, it may take them weeks. And if that's the case, well, then you got to worry about your fridge. You got to really worry about your other power issues. And you may want to start filling up water bottles or containers with water in case you run out of water, right? So these are things that people don't think about. But when you plan for a contingency, a known contingency, sometimes you just don't have enough imagination, right? Or you don't have enough in-depth knowledge about how all the systems in your life work. You go to the grocery store and the power outage has all of the checkouts shut down. If they can't figure out how to scan you out, they're just not going to sell you anything. Well, that's a problem. Maybe you didn't anticipate that. So what I would challenge you to be thinking about is a different way of thinking about problems. Instead of thinking about what could go wrong and how do I patch that, instead, start thinking about it sometimes from a zero sum. You're starting from zero. Imagine you get kicked out of your house with just the clothes on your back and you're walking across the country. What would you need? What would you need to survive? What would you need to be comfortable, right? When you start thinking of things from zero, you don't assume anything. Can you support yourself? Can you support your family? And when you start thinking about from this perspective, it doesn't matter what the problem is because you are planning for those things. Now, whenever you start thinking about these things, remember, when you have a need that you need to fill, you need to be thinking multiple layers deep, right? The military has the PACE system. It's a way of thinking, right? PACE stands for primary, P, primary. This is how you're going to fix that problem. This is how you're going to supply that need. A is alternate. You need an alternate. What happens if that primary thing doesn't work? What happens if you have food storage, but your house gets flooded and you don't have, and all your food storage at home gets destroyed? Or maybe your house burns down. Well, what's your alternate? But Steve, who can anticipate that happening? Well, if you're serious about things, you need to be prepared for things. What's your alternate? 3, or C, contingency. Well, if things go really sideways, what can you do then? And finally, emergency. If you're in an emergency situation, you're in survival mode, short term. This can be, and as you go through the system, it can be less and less convenient. Take, for instance, my house. I'll walk you through my heating plan. I have electric heat here, and that's not the best, but it's what I have in the house, okay? That's my primary heat. That's what I use when the grid's up, and, I have my solar panels that are starting to eat into my electric bill some. So that's my primary, electric. Alternate. Well, what happens if my electric goes down? Well, the next most convenient thing for me to do is to pull out my propane heaters. Propane is my alternate. It's convenient. That's what I'm going to do. It's convenient and easy to do. I have it set up. I'm good to go. Contingency. If that doesn't work, or if this is longer term, I have a wood burning stove in the basement. Now, it doesn't really pump the heat into the house. So really, for me to really use that as my primary source of heat, I kind of have to move down into my basement. I need to set up a tent around the furnace down there. I got to hang out blankets. It'd take a little bit of work to kind of figure that out so I can use the heat from the stove efficiently. So it's contingency. It's inconvenient. But I have 2 cords of wood sitting outside my house that are under cover so that they're ready to use if I need to do that. Contingency. Because, if I have a whole winter, having a whole winter's worth of propane is kind of a lot of propane, right? But having 2 cords of wood can heat my home and keep me alive for several winters. And you say, Steve, you need more wood than that. If I have my tent built in my basement around the furnace and I insulate things down there, I can really use a lot less fuel and still keep warm. And finally, 4, emergency. If I needed to heat the house in emergency mode, and wood is for some reason not working, I have sleeping bags, I have blankets. If I have to leave the house or something like that and sleep in the car, I'm going to go with just my body heat and lots of blankets and sleeping bags and stuff like that. That's survival. And if I don't have my firewood, if I don't have the propane, if I don't have the electric heat in the house, well, then that's what I'm going to do next. That's That's just what I'm going to do. So you can see how I'm not going to be comfortable if I'm just using my body heat to stay warm. That's not going to be comfortable at all. I have a room in my basement that's kind of almost completely underground. I could insulate that up and stay at underground temperatures. And if I have enough sleeping bags and stuff like that, I can survive and ride things out there. It will keep me alive. I will be extremely uncomfortable, but I won't die probably, right? So as you go through the PACE system, primary should be super convenient. It's for your day-to-day stuff, right? And your alternate should be relatively convenient. It's the focus is on that your life doesn't get super disrupted. Contingency is your life is now disrupted, but you want this to be sustainable. You want this to work well. And then finally, emergency, you just need to survive this. You need to survive this, and then once you've survived this, you can come out and you can rebuild, okay? But just make it through. So hopefully that's kind of a helpful way of thinking through things. And remember, the other military adage, 2 is 1, right? Because something's always going to break. If you have 2 things, one's always going to break. That's 1. And 1 is none. Because if 1 breaks and that's all you have of that, that's a problem. How are you going to start fires? How are you going to light things? Well, I have lots and lots of lighters. And by lots of lighters, I mean I have a ton of lighters. I have all different kinds of lighters. I can make fire here, no problem. That's not going to be a serious problem here. I have Fresnel lenses that I can start fires with. That's basically a giant magnifying glass. If the sun's out, I can start a fire. I have all kinds of things. Lots of different contingencies. Lots of different, looking through your entire survival, the PACE model should help you think through, what about food? How are you going to eat? How are you going to, what about water? Where are you going to get your water from? All these different plans. And sometimes the plan is, I'm going to go over to so-and-so's house. Well, have you made that a possibility? Have you talked with them about that? What would that look like? Maybe you can help them out now so that if you need to go over there at that time, you won't be as much of a burden to them. Just be thinking through all of the different things that you need to survive, you and your family. How would you do that? There are many different ways of survival. And if you need to get more inspiration, go to the bushcraft channels out there. People survive in the woods. I'm an Eagle Scout. I've done my fair share of camping, and I've walked across the United States on the Appalachian Trail. I've hiked the entire Appalachian Trail. So I know a thing or two about being outdoors and living in the woods. And one of the things I learned on the Appalachian Trail is fires are dumb. I know every bushcraft person is like, you need to start a fire. When I learned backpacking was like, fires are dumb. They're a waste of time. They're a waste of energy. You don't need a fire, generally speaking. You need to warm up your food or cook your food, and even some people don't even do that. If you have the right kind of food, you don't even need to cook it. So you may not need to do that. You have body heat. As long as you put fuel in your body, you'll generate heat, and you'll be fine. You can survive. So a lot of things that we take for granted or we think are big deals aren't big deals. And some things that we wouldn't think of become a big deal really fast. So think through what you need. And there's different categories to think about through that. But how do you deal with an unknown or a black swan event, something that you can't even imagine happening? Well, you can make sure your basics are covered, and you're covered 4 deep. And that is important. That will make sure that you are prepared. And like I said, the emergency and even contingency can be downright inconvenient for you. That's fine, as long as you can survive it. Because I promise you, when things go sideways in the United States and other countries, when World War III comes along, there's going to be a lot of people who, when their primary goes away, they have no alternate. They have no contingency. They have no emergency. They're just going to cry out for somebody else to come save them. And when you have millions and millions of people unable to take care of themselves, what are the chances you're going to be taken care of? I don't know. When push comes to shove in the United States, if you're of the wrong skin color, I don't know if you're actually going to get help. Because we're being told that certain people in the United States are not as valuable as other people. That certain people should have priority to needs and assistance and all that kind of stuff like that. And yeah, it's flipping the script. Used to be the other way around in the United States, and apparently out of justice and equity and whatever, they flipped it. So be prepared. You may be turned away because people don't like you, or people feel like you kind of deserve what you're getting. And that's horrible, but we saw that with Kentucky. When their flooding hit Kentucky, we saw the American Red Cross refuse to deploy. Why? Because all these left-wing nut jobs came out of the woodwork, environmental wackos. They said, those people voted for the wrong political party, they're a bunch of hicks, and they deserve what happened to them. No joke, that's what happened. And we're seeing that more and more, that organizations like the Red Cross have become political, and their assistance has become more and more dependent upon how an area votes than it is on how severe the emergency is. And if you think that the government won't follow suit, you got another thing coming to you. Friends, be prepared. Be prepared. You need to be able to take care of yourself and the people that you love. And hopefully even take care of some of the friends and neighbors that you have around you. Sometimes that will be you just providing them information, helping them think through their problems, and providing them with solutions that they can work out for themselves. If you can help them with assistance, that's awesome. But if you've thought through these things, you can help them springboard ahead and get through the crisis with their families. All right, friends, if you have some thoughts about different things, pop them down below because help each other out with advice and wisdom that you got. Thanks so much for joining us here on the channel again. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar, The Poplar Report, out.